Hey everybody, welcome to Get to Know Your Wedding Pro. My name is Reed with Best Made Videos. We are a wedding videography company based out of West Seattle, Washington, and I'm up here today in Skagit County with Taryn Holmstrom, the owner and designer of Skagit Valley Wedding Rentals. And I want to say thank you so much for letting me come into your beautiful showroom today. Can you just introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about who you are?
Sure. Thanks for having me. Like Reed said, my name is Taryn, and I own Skagit Valley Wedding Rentals, and we are a rental design firm here in Skagit County, located in the farmlands of Mount Vernon. And we've been doing this for, I think this is going on to our 9th year. And we just help clients and customers as they're planning their weddings and they're looking at their Pinterest boards. We help bring their Pinterest boards to life. So, and you see here, I know our listeners cannot, but I have a full showroom with a 60-inch round table and all of our chairs here. We take our linens and put them right on the table. So we take a look at your Pinterest boards, and we will find the pieces that you like the best out of them, and then we mock it up right here. So when you walk away, you have a dream design right there in front of you.
Yeah, have you seen, like, obviously the Pinterest thing is, somewhat new in the last couple of years. I mean, how has that kind of reshaped how you guys go through the process, or has it made it easier or harder? I mean, are expectations different now?
It's a double-edged sword. I mean, I wish it was around when I got married, because my wedding would look dramatically different than it did. But it's great because our clients can just send us their boards ahead of time and we can look at them before, and we have a really good sense of what they like. It's nice because we can go through it with them and they can tell us exactly what pieces they enjoy and pieces they like, and not everything in the picture do they like. You pin something because you like just the flower or the chair sash or something specific. And so we can go through that, and it helps us really visualize for them. The hard part about it is most of the pictures you see on Pinterest are not actual full weddings. A lot of them are styled shoots, and so it's one table done up really, really beautifully. And we wish we could do every table that way, but it doesn't always align with the investment that our clients want to make in their table designs.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, we work with that too, with video and photography, that, you see a lot of these stylized shoots. And, like I know our wedding over the weekend, you might have 2 minutes from when kind of everything is set up until when the guests come in and sit down, and like even us trying to get these pictures that you see, like most of the time it is. Is it tough, like kind of managing those expectations that clients have?
I wouldn't necessarily call it tough. I think during our process, we do a 1-hour design consultation that's complimentary with our clients. And during that process, we do talk about what they like about the different linens and different textures and colors, and kind of the overall feel that they want for their wedding. And, the investment that they want to make is discussed as well. But really, they leave and they get to sit and think about it. So we give them their pie in the sky dream design, and then they get to go home and decide, like, how's that going to fit with what we want and how we want to spend our money and how we want to make our day happen. And so I don't feel like it's too difficult to manage. We give them their options, and then they get to decide what's important for them.
Is it rewarding to go through the process with them, and kind of you really are that integral part where you get to see that whole finalized vision? I mean, talk about kind of going through that from, scratch paper and Pinterest boards to seeing the final result.
That's my favorite part, is especially during the design consultations when we sit down and they come in and they love, really it's like 3 or 4 different styles, and they want to make it all come together and make it cohesive. And there is a fine line between, I don't know if you've ever tried decorating your house or any of that kind of stuff. There's a fine line between it looking really great and then looking like it's just thrown together. And so we really help make all the different pieces that you love about your wedding come together in a cohesive design. And I think my favorite part of that process is when we're sitting down and they come in with, like, they see all the colors, they see all the different textures, and they're just overwhelmed. And then within half an hour, we have that dream perfect design. And they sit back and there's that light bulb moment of, this is exactly what I want. And the sense of calm goes over them. And that's my favorite part, is because I'm sure as you work with different couples as they plan their weddings and you got married, it's very overwhelming and it's very stressful. And to have one thing checked off your list and it's just like, it's done, it's calm, I'm happy, this is exactly what I want, and you can move on to the next piece. And really, the linens and the table designs, they're a huge part of a wedding. They really do set the tone. People overlook it sometimes, and it does really set the tone and theme for your wedding. It's the background for your flowers to really show on the table, or your menu cards, or whatever other pieces you've really taken into it. So I love seeing it all come together at the very, very end.
Are there some trends right now that are really popular, or especially as we're kind of getting into this, it's May, end of May right now, we're getting into this wedding season. Are you noticing certain things this year that are popular that people are gravitating towards?
In the past, we would say it's like certain textures and colors. Like we've all seen the burlap and lace, and I'm sure many of us who are in the wedding industry are pretty excited to see that go away because it's, I mean, as much as we love it, but it's not as unique as it used to be. And so we're seeing these new trends come through. So greenery was a big trend last year. We're still seeing a lot of the green garlands with like English laurels or eucalyptus, which is, I think that'll always be mainstays. Still a lot of blush, and blush is always a romantic color. The thing that I'm liking the most that I'm seeing this year is that my clients and brides that we have, they're really stepping away from what's on Pinterest, even though that's what we specialize, is helping bring their Pinterest board to life. And they're thinking really of the whole event and how it reflects them as a couple. So they're picking pieces certain pieces within their wedding that reflect them. So I have one couple that are getting married in Labor Day, and they're riding their tandem bike way down the aisle. And it's like, how cute is that? Like, because that's them, And so people are picking things that really reflect them. I have another couple that's in New York. They're not even from here, but they love hiking. So they're coming all the way here and having their wedding in the North Cascades because they want to share their love of hiking. And so instead of having this like cookie cutter wedding that matches all the Pinterest boards, people are taking Pinterest as their inspiration, but they're really developing it into what reflects them as a couple and what's unique to them.
Yeah, I do think that, the clientele nowadays really kind of like to make things their own, and have, something that kind of speaks to them and what they are. Yeah, it's funny. We're sitting here with these chairs and, like I recognize some of these rental, chairs and, like even when I walk into like a reception room, if it's got, what is this, the bone kind of chair?
Oh, Jafari chairs.
I always know like, oh, this is a good wedding.
Yes.
Our one on Saturday at Bell Harbor had those and go, okay, well, this is good. But it sets the tone and it lets people know like this is a nice event and we're really coming together to celebrate. Do you guys talk about the area you guys service? Obviously you're based in Skagit County, but talk about that and how far you guys go.
So we'll go anywhere for a price, right? Like if you want to take me to Hawaii, I'm happy to come to your wedding in Hawaii. Most of our clients are here in the Whatcom, Skagit, Snohomish counties. We do go into King County a little bit, but mostly we really are located here in Skagit. So we do serve all the way up to the border, quite a bit in Bellingham, Mount Vernon, Burlington, and then, down into the Snohomish. But we have stuff going out to Montana this summer, Idaho, Eastern Washington. Because we're a rental company, we don't necessarily physically have to go. Like we do offer the option of we will come in and set up for you if that's something you need, and we'll break it down if that fits for what you want to invest and if it's for the timeline that you have. But most of our clients, they pick up their stuff days beforehand and they take it to wherever they want to go. And then they bring it back to us the following week.
There's been kind of an explosion in the last couple of years with like all these great venues up here in Snohomish County and, kind of like the more barn settings and things. Has that been obviously helpful to you guys as well? Just kind of the expanding demographic up here in terms of how many different wedding venues there are? Yeah,
over the last 8 years, we've seen a huge change in the type of venues and the price points of the venues that we have up here. And we're seeing a lot more brides and couples coming out of Seattle, moving north to us because I love Seattle, but it is expensive to do anything down there, especially if you want to throw a larger party. And so there's a lot more flexibility being up here if you can make the drive. And I think a lot, going back to couples trying to make it a reflection of them, they want to give their guests an experience. So instead of just showing up at 5:00 one night and there for a couple hours and leaving, they're trying to encourage their guests to come for the weekend. Like they come out to the San Juan Islands and stay at Roach Harbor and tour, ride bikes around the island and do a little fishing and whale watching while you happen to have our wedding as well. So we're seeing a lot more come up here doing room blocks at the casinos or at some of our nicer hotels, and then getting charter buses to take you to and from the venue. And there's a ton of barns being converted. We're actually in the process of converting a barn just a couple driveways down into a venue. So there's a lot coming, and it's great because each place has its own pieces that are so unique. And so just being connected with all of them and seeing them, we can easily, if someone says they're getting married, say at Greenfield Farm and Gardens, which is a kind of a red shoppy barn here in Anacortes, I can recommend certain things that go specific to that style of that barn. Or Maplehurst has a completely different look, even though they're both they're barn venues. They're both different.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's something, that everybody thinks about, right? Because even us in filming, there's like totally different, like, in Snohomish, like Dairyland or like Hidden Meadows and things. It's all like kind of that similar vibe, but you do really have to like specially tailor kind of what you're bringing in there. Because like you said, you don't want to like clash or, you want it to complement each other. So kind of getting into this wedding rental market, how did you kind of find yourself getting into this? I know we had talked kind of off air and setting this up about, you're a mom and kids but how do we find ourselves today here?
It's a really interesting story. I think I'm very similar to a lot of wedding professionals in this was never my plan. I went to school to be a teacher. I taught special education for middle school for years, and I loved it. And when I got engaged, we were young and didn't have a ton of money, and I started looking into getting rentals. And I needed chair covers because the venue I had really horrible chairs that I was not okay with. And when I started pricing it out, it was just, I couldn't handle it. And I started researching, like, what if I just bought it and sold it? And that was my plan. Like, I got married in 2010. I'm going to buy these things. I'm going to sell them. I don't want to see them again. I just want to save a buck. And then my friend was getting married. We were in February, so we were a winter wedding. My friend was getting married a couple months later, and she's like, can I just borrow them? Just wait to sell them. I'm like, oh, yeah, sure, no problem. I'll just wait till summer. And then her friend was at her wedding, of course, and was like, hey, I'll give you $200. I'm like, $200. At the time, my husband was a commercial fisherman, and I taught, so I had summers off. He wasn't here. Like, what am I going to do? So I just kind of put an ad on Craigslist. Like, I set up a website. If I could, I wish I'd printed it off or kept it somehow because it was horrible. But, you live and learn. And so it just kind of snowballed. And we just did it part-time for about 4 years in the summer. This was before I had kids. And then once I had my first son, I decided that I wanted to be home with him. And my husband gave me the gift of allowing me to come home with him. And I was a stay-at-home mom, and that was it for 6 months. And I got to those moms who can do it, I applaud you, but I cannot be a stay-at-home mom only. I needed something else. And then I just dove deep about 4.5 years ago into the business. And we've been doing it semi-full-time for the last 4 years.
What was that process like of kind of making that leap? Was that scary? I mean, was it a slow build or how was the actual setting up and kind of like, I mean, you guys have a huge inventory now. I mean, did it start with one wedding or five or how did that go? So,
starting it wasn't super scary, I think, because I didn't quit a job to start it. I didn't feel like I didn't have a certain amount of money I had to bring in doing it. It was really just a side gig. I love making money. I love helping people, solving problems. So it fit nicely. I had done other side gigs in the past. I used to install lawn. There's all kinds of things I've done in the past with my other lives that I had, basically. And so it fit naturally for me to find something that wasn't an hourly thing that I could make a little bit more money and have the creative part too. Like, I'm really good at managing things because I can manage a classroom of children. So managing the moving parts of an event and helping clients work through that process was super helpful. And it's a fun time. Everyone, like, planning a wedding for the most part is enjoyable. It's a happy day. You're planning for something. It's not typically a sad day or, it's stressful, but it's a beautiful day. And so everyone has a lot of excitement around it. And I love that creativity and that feeling around them. So I wanted to surround myself. When I started, I literally, and I'm sure if you talk to any of my past clients, I considered myself the bag lady. I would take a little bag of a sample of all my sashes that I could get in any color. We'd meet at Starbucks. Like, the Starbucks baristas just laughed because I'd be putting chair covers on their chairs. But that was where I was at. And I didn't have a showroom. I was home based for the first 6 years. We've only had this building for 2 years that we've been actually having a showroom, which has been a game changer. But I went slow, and I was committed to not going into debt for it and just to keep making it fun. And so when things got to be overwhelming or I wasn't enjoying, I would pivot to what my clients needed and what I enjoyed more. Because for me, whatever I do with my life, I have to enjoy it and I have to have a good time. And if I'm not enjoying my work, then I need to pivot to where I can enjoy it so that I can really support my clients in the best way possible.
That's fascinating. I'm just thinking back. There was some movie where a guy had to go like door to door selling like a sewing machine or something back in the 50s. And, that was kind of like you, right? And it was like the hustle every day. Yep. I mean, was that rewarding, kind of knowing that you were building that slowly as you went? Was it frustrating?
I would say it was more rewarding because for the first couple years, I was still teaching full time and I worked this into like the cracks of my life outside of that. So I didn't have children for the first couple years. So it was no big deal to not come home till 9 or 10 at night. If I was working at school, planning my lessons and then meeting clients in the evenings, or on a Saturday, having a whole Saturday gone, I'm used to working 60 or 80 hours a week at the time. So for me to add a few more hours, it was not a big deal. I really enjoyed it. And if it was just like an hourly, like, here's your coffee type job, I probably wouldn't have. I used to waitress and I gave that up. But since this was like that light bulb moment and people feeling like calm because they were able to like, I had what they needed and I had what they wanted and they could check it off their box and they could move on to the next piece of planning, knowing that I was solving a problem for someone else and making their life easier made it more enjoyable for me. And so then I kept going and I was like, I'll just keep doing it. But like I said, those first couple of years, we might have only done 5 or 10 small weddings, like $500, like really small events, because that was the space I had in my life at the time. And then once my kids got a little bit older and I decided I didn't want to be a stay-at-home mom anymore and I needed to find something, I'm able to dive in and really expand. The other thing that we did is you see, tons of colors and samples here in our office, and you looked at my back room with 200 or 300 bins of linens.
It's a lot of linens.
We didn't have that. We had samples, and then as a client was like, oh yeah, I want red. I'm like, okay, I have it. And then I'd go order it. Like, I would bring in whatever they needed, but I didn't need to have 100 of every color because who knows if anybody's going to want that or not. So I just grew really slow, and I had some really great mentors. There's a couple other rental companies in the area that I was able to kind of pick their brains, and they were able to share with me what worked for them and what didn't. And I just asked lots of questions of other people that are in the industry and like, how do they find their clients and what did they enjoy? And I aligned myself with the people that had the same heart to serve that I had.
It's tough. I mean, as someone who's my wife's a teacher and works all day, every day, weekends too. I mean, I couldn't imagine her having to add on starting the business. So, I mean, that really is like, as someone that lives through it every day, I mean, that's a lot. You said you asked a lot of questions and you had a lot of mentors. What is something that you know now that you wish you would have known years ago in terms of like a lesson or?
There's a couple. So one of the first things that comes to mind is you can set your own pace. So there's this idea, like in our lives, even whether we're business owners or not, that we compare, right? So we look on Facebook or Instagram and, oh, they're a better mom than I am. They have a cleaner house than their job's amazing. They're working for a beer company and they're going to all these beer things or whatever it is. We compare and then we think, oh, ours is less. And so in the beginning, it's like I would compare myself to where they're at. I should be there. I should be doing what they're doing. And you run yourself in circles. So there's a ton of stuff right now with like Facebook and Instagram and their algorithms and Pinterest and email marketing, all these things that we should be doing to be quote unquote good business running. But really, I get to decide how I want to live my life. Do I want to spend 30 hours a week doing that? I don't. I did. I have done it. But I wish I had learned sooner that I'm on my own path and I have to do this so it fits me so I can be here in the long run. If I just run myself ragged, I'm just going to burn out. And then I won't be able to help. I won't be able to provide the service I provide. And how many other people are going to go straight to Amazon, order tablecloths, have them be super wrinkled, and then have them not fit their tables correctly? Like, and then they have a basic design. Like, they're not going to get the same service that I can provide them. So knowing that someone put it to me as I'm on a train, and I get to decide if I go fast or slow, where I want to turn off, where I want to go. And if I want to hop off the train at any point and go back on it later, I can do that. And so having that piece has been really good for me to just be like, they're doing a great thing and I think that's awesome for them. It's just not right for me now. I'm going to do what's right for me and my clients and my family now. So I wish I had known that sooner.
But it is tough. I mean, as someone, and because it's like, if you're doing rentals and somebody else, like, because I've talked with people about that in the past, like if we all work at the same company, maybe I'm doing the numbers and you're doing the logistics or whatever, like it kind of apples and oranges. But yeah, like if I'm doing wedding videos and somebody else is, and it's really like it's direct, you're able to look at somebody else and say, wow, should I be doing something different? I mean, it is hard.
Yep.
You talked about the Amazon and I didn't even think about that. So, people ordering, on that versus kind of the personal approach that, you or others, local service-based, rental companies. Talk about that difference. And have you heard horror stories, or maybe not horror, but
I have a love-hate relationship with Amazon because Amazon Prime is like my best friend. They're at my house all the time. But I was that bride, the do-it-yourself bride. I ordered tablecloths online. I brought them in. I spent the 40 to 60 hours the week before my wedding ironing, because that's what you have to do in order to make them look right. And it was a lot of stress. So if people are super detail oriented and they are on a super tight budget, or they don't want, even if you're not on a tight budget, you just don't want to put your money in the design. There's other pieces, whether it's the live band or a videographer, which, a lot of times people don't budget for that. Then that's great. Let me give you a couple of great websites. These are the companies I like to work with. They have, thicker tablecloths. We've heard tablecloths coming in from China that literally you can see through them. So if you have if your venue has tables that are the dark wood top instead of the plastic top, and you have a white linen, all you're seeing is wood under it, and it looks super tacky. We've also seen people buy the tablecloths themselves, and honestly, it can be cheaper than renting sometimes, but when you rent a tablecloth, we're pressing it. We're having it professionally cleaned. It's ready to go in a box. We're guaranteeing that size is going to fit. We've done all the research already. And then we're also doing the design. We're helping you bring your whole design together. So I do feel like there's nothing wrong with ordering online. You just you're going to pay one way or another. Is it going to be time or money? So you can either save time, because we can never get more time back, and spend a little bit more money and have it all done for you. Or if you have more time than money, then maybe the do-it-yourself option is a good option. I still recommend reaching out to some professionals and getting some ideas and have them help guide you a little bit. And it's not an all or nothing. Some of my clients, they have a friend that has basic white tablecloths. So they just borrow those, but then they come to us and they get the sequence runners from us and the backdrop or something. And so those two models can mesh together. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. But you just really have to decide, how much time do I have? If you're a busy professional, do you really want to spend every waking hour crafting and ironing? I don't know. That's something that you would have to decide.
Yeah, it is. Because like you said, it's going to cost you either with time or money. I know that when my friend got married, the florals, that's what they were going to save. But, I saw him because I filmed the wedding, and I saw him the morning of, and he said, man, we were up till 3 a.m., putting together, the bouquets,
Yes.
which, you save money, but it's time. And like you said, some people, I'm the kind of person that I just want to pay and have it done. But, if you're trying to be scrappy, and I totally get that too, then I got a deal on my videographer because, I could whatever, but then we were able to spend that on other stuff. But it's tough. And it is true too with even just the presentation and stuff. Cause I do think that some couples, and I've seen this with, cause some of our clients are more planner and rentals. And then some of our clients are more DIY. They'll get some stuff, in boxes, and I don't think they've ever taken it out until the morning of, and, you put it on the table, and it's oh no, we need to steam that, or we need to press it. I've even done wedding shows where we've had our linens provided, and I've shown up and been
where's my steamer?
Yeah, this is, and because it is, whether or not you recognize what it is that you're noticing, you do notice something, right?
Yep.
It does.
And I'm going to say the wrinkles in a tablecloth do not make or break a wedding, for sure. Your wedding will be beautiful. I do recommend real tablecloths over plastic any day, right? But it's not going to make or break. It is a subtle thing. But when you walk into a room and there is not a crease on any of your tablecloths and everything is just flowing so smoothly, and it creates a stunning look, subconsciously you walk in and it's just a sense of calm. So if you walk in and everything, even just the base has just those wrinkles on the tablecloth, and maybe your napkins aren't all folded ahead of time and pressed, it is a different feel. Even if you don't really care about the look of it, walking in subconsciously, you feel differently. And so the one thing I do really recommend is when I have clients that are on a little bit tight of a budget, I really just want to educate them and tell them, you decide how you want to spend your time. If you want to iron, that's great, but this is what I'd recommend. Pick out a really good show to binge watch the week before and just sit and watch it on Netflix. Don't do it the day of. Don't leave it to someone else, because the day of, you want to be drinking mimosas, sitting with everybody, getting ready, enjoying your time. You don't want to be wondering, is Aunt Susie actually ironing all the tablecloths the way that you want? Because she's not. It's not happening. They'll do one or two and the head table, that's fine. And then the rest won't get done. I see it over and over and over again. And so just being really realistic about, if you go that route, these are probably the things that can happen. And these are ways to maybe combat it and see if maybe you can make it not happen in that way.
Yeah, I mean, I do think education is the key, and it's it's what we do every day, and I do think that that's something I've talked with other clients and vendors and things that like when you do your wedding, obviously like we want it to be exactly how you want it, but like there may be tricks or like you said, little bits of advice that like that you can kind of take in and kind of have that make it a little easier or make it run a little smoother. What was the biggest thing like you said, you were doing the rental or the DIY kind of for your own wedding, but were there any lessons you learned from that of how she's nodding her head? And
yeah, I got a bunch. How many do you want? How much time do we have? I think one of the biggest things is my husband and I grew up together. And so we grew up in church together. So our church family really, like, we self-catered. We did our own DJing. I hired one wedding professional, and it was a photographer. That was it. We did everything ourselves. And I just distinctly remember sitting at our head table, dinner had been served, and I looked out, and there were like, because we all grew up together, we have like, that aunt and uncle or that my mom and dad's friends or like your second mom and dad. I walked out, I looked out, I saw them out there in their wedding clothes, like their beautifully dressed up clothes. They're invited as a guest to our wedding, and they're bussing tables. Because I did not plan on, we got the food out, but what do you do afterwards? Someone has to bus your tables. And so one of the things I tell my clients all the time is, even if you're self-catering or you hired a caterer who's just dropping off, hire somebody to bus your tables. There's a youth group out there. There's a baseball team, a cheerleading. Like, there is a group of people out there that are looking to raise money. You don't have to pay them by the hour. You can donate to their nonprofit, to their organization. And they get great experience because this will go on their resumes if they're 15, 16, or 17. If your caterer provides busing services, do it. Just hire it, pay for it. I wish I had done that, because just looking out, like, we had worked so hard the day before and the morning of, because we did our own floral, and our boutonnieres all froze. And the next morning we had to do them again. Like, all these things happened. And so just after everyone had just worked so hard and then it was time for us to enjoy it, they're still working hard. And I mean, I'm so thankful for them because they never made me feel bad about it. They did it with a smile on their face. They were happy to serve. But I wish I had thought more about it. And now that I know that, because we were the first in our group to get married. And so all my friends, my siblings, like, someone's bussing the tables. If I have to pay for it, someone's doing it, because I don't want anyone else to have to experience that.
But it's, it's things like that you can, and not even just like the specifics of busing, but like thinking about all those different odds and ends. Because especially like if you're the first, sibling or the first in the friend circle, I mean, like, I think when my wife and I obviously work in weddings, but like, a bunch of our friends had gotten married by the time we got married. So we were able to kind of talk about, well, this is what we like or don't like, or, that we should steal that idea or whatever. But, it's tough because you kind of are judged, right? Like, even though, I mean, everyone's coming together, but, you want it to be good and fun and have everyone, any other kind of, you said you had more? Yeah.
So I also wish, this is for the ladies out there, that I had done airbrush makeup and eyelash extensions, which to me at the time, like, I'm not spending $150 on that. That's ridiculous. You can always make more money. That day does not come back around. I wish I had done that. Like, and just for the photos. And then the other thing, and this is kind of like a nod to you a little bit, but videography. So I had a photographer that I hired, and she did an amazing job. We love our photos. We have one framed. That's it. But we loved our photos. But since then, knowing what I know now, we have lost 2 of our grandparents, and they were there that day. And to have been able to hear their voice again on that day, giving us advice all of our grandparents have been married for 50 years plus to the same person. And so to have 2 of our grandfathers have passed away, I could cry now just thinking about it, wishing that I had their voices. Because at the time, it was all about me and my wedding. But now that I've had children and families become so much more important to me as I've gotten older and just matured, I would trade that. I would have written something else off and hired someone even if I couldn't afford it, I would have asked someone to go around and just videotape people's voices and their well wishes for us. Because you don't get that back. And time is short, so, I mean, sentimental, but I wish I had done that. I do tell my clients, think about these pieces, and it's not, I mean, I love my husband, and sure, we'll rewatch, like, someone did video our, like, I do's and our vows. Like, But it was really, I'm a people person, so it's the other people that were there that I didn't get a chance to really interact with that I would have loved to have heard from again.
Yeah, I mean, that is a big thing that people, we have clients fill out kind of preferences of what they want to see in their wedding video. And, usually them mingling with the guests or even just the guests, not even with the bride and groom, is usually rated very high, which, until we did that, I didn't know, that's really important. So I want to get to kind of this showroom here and everything now. So you're doing the suitcase sales. Yeah. So how many years did that go on?
I would say probably 3 or 4. It was a couple seasons because I was teaching, and I taught special ed, so it's heavy in paperwork, and it's emotionally draining. And so I needed something light and fun in the summers, but I also enjoy the weather. Like I kind of have a thing now where if it's over 70, I try not to work because I really like to enjoy my summers and I like the heat. And up here in the Northwest, we don't get too many of those days. So I really kept it really small, and I just, if it came, it came, but I didn't have a Facebook page at the time. Like, I didn't have anything. I had a website, and I would maybe once a month put something on Craigslist, and that was it. And I didn't even think about, like, connecting with other wedding professionals and, like, helping them out and having them help me. Never thought about that. It was really just going after the client. And then after I had my son and I was home for a while and I just needed something more for my brain to do besides change diapers and feed mushy food, I kind of dove into like, well, what is my target client and where do we find them? And I went to the Wedding MBA in Vegas, and which is like a national yearly conference. It's a couple days long. I think you've been to it, right? And it was eye-opening that first time, is going and realizing, oh yeah, there are these other ways that I can market myself and other ways that I can connect with other professionals. And I've always been a fan of community over competition. So I never really felt like if I did it that someone else couldn't. I never really felt like if I get the sale, then those dollars aren't available for someone else, or there's not another client for someone else, or vice versa. If someone else gets the sale, I don't think they took out of my pocket. Like, there's plenty of clients out there. We had over 7,000 weddings in Skagit County last year. I don't want to do 7,000 weddings, do you?
No, that was a good, Heather and Ryan that were just on the podcast. We had talked at some wedding about, that same idea about competition and, other photographers. And Ryan said the same thing, and I'm making up the number, but, 10,000 whatever weddings in King County is like, all I need to do is get 50.
Yep. And I want 50 to 100 of the right clients for me, the ones that love what I do, that love my services and want to do what I can do for them. And then the other clients that maybe aren't a good fit, that's great. Like, meet me or reach out and I'll refer you to someone. I'm connected with other rental companies in the area because they do things differently than I do. Or maybe sometimes you need a little bit from both of us. I don't do any tables or chairs. The chairs and tables that you see in here, Reed, these are Pacific Party canopies that we partner with them. They don't do any sequins. They refer clients my way all the time. And so if you can find out what you are specialized in and what you niche into, and then you can tell people about it, it's easier for them to refer you. And then you get to work with more people you enjoy working with, and you solve a problem that they really need solved. And if I can't solve your problem, like you want nice, farm tables and you don't really need linens, great. That's the look you want. Let me refer you over to Amanda. She is a Rustic Event Rentals. She hand makes them. Like, we'll send them out. And so I'm not all about getting the dollar from me. It's more about how can I solve the problem and get you the best look that you want. And so we kind of approach it that way. And I have found that the more that I approach it that way, and I'm all about community and sharing, the sales come, the clients come, the weddings come, and I don't really worry about the bottom dollar as much as I do just solving problems and helping people have beautiful weddings.
So but that seems like it's been a pretty big switch, right? I mean, was it just the Wedding MBA or was it?
I would say the Wedding MBA was part of it. I think, honestly, the Skagit Wedding Society, a shout out to them. If you're a wedding professional and you aren't part of it, I highly recommend it. Very similar to the Snohomish Wedding Guild. They had started, it's been 5 years now, they started. And this will be our 5th year that we're doing the tour. And it was just a networking group that they just started from the ground up. And being connected with the people in that networking group was huge. They really modeled for me like how to do business and how to treat clients the right way and how to refer each other. And I just went out, and because I don't have a degree in entrepreneurship or running a business. Like, I worked at my dad's business growing up, and so I knew the ins and outs a little bit of being an entrepreneur, but I had no idea. But I just asked lots of questions, and I read lots of books, and the shift just started happening. And it wasn't, at first it was all about the sale. I just want to get the sale, and I'll do anything for that sale. So like, you want this, I'll bring it in. You want this? And I was bending over backwards all the time and discounting. And then I couldn't deliver in the way that I wanted. And so now we will source things, but instead of me trying to get it into my office, if I know someone else that has it, I'd rather refer it out to them. It's actually better for me and for that other professional and for the client. Because if I bring something in that I don't normally use, there's areas that there's a learning curve with a new product. And so if I don't want to, if I do that, it could not turn out well for our client. Whereas I'd rather send them to someone who, like, if someone wanted a tent, I don't want to commit to sending up a 60 by 40 tent for you. It's going to fall down. Like, it will. I don't know how to do it. And so I want to send you to someone who does it every weekend for the last 20 years with multiple crews. They will get it in and out. You only have so many hours on that wedding day. It needs to be run really efficient, and you need to make sure your time is spent well. So I'm all about community, and just as that shift in my mindset happened as I kept reading and kept talking to people, and I just kept aligning myself with professionals that treat their clients the same way and have the same philosophy. And it's been super rewarding.
It is interesting. We're going into like our 5th year now of summer bookings, and like, the more you learn, mm-hmm. I think the bigger of the picture you see, mm-hmm. and like I think like going to the wedding MBA is part of that. But like, I think like that first year when I started, like it's like you just got to get the booking, because I was still working, and like, mm-hmm. I'd get called for a wedding and I wouldn't even know if I could get the day off, but mm-hmm. you'd have to, I'll take it. And then it's like, as the years go by, it's like an iceberg or a glacier, mm-hmm. or whatever, but you see that like the 10% or whatever you thought, but there's all this other stuff. Yeah. And like, I even think about stuff that I used to really care about or pay attention to or not pay attention to. Mm-hmm. And now you're like, man, just totally. And the same with networking and kind of reaching mm-hmm. out and referring, because, like you said, you want to focus on the things that you want to focus on. Mm-hmm. And, people might just think rentals, mm-hmm. but like you said, you focus on, certain things, and somebody else might have a specific table or whatever.
Well, so going off of that, like, it's what I specialize in. So I don't do tables, chairs, or tents. And many times it's crossed my path. I get calls for it. I'm sure I would make money doing it. I know I would, because I get calls a whole day long for it. But it's not what I want to do. I don't really want to lug around 200 chairs and go set them up somewhere. I like my weekends. And so I specialize in custom drapery installations and custom backdrops. Like, we sew backdrops for clients specifically for their events. We specialize in textured and colorful linens. I have basic linens, just like white and khaki and ivory table linens, and basic dishes too, just like a lot of the other rental companies. But I have really small quantities, like up to 2 or 250. If you need more than that, then I refer you somewhere else, so you have a complete set. I want to specialize in the parts that I enjoy and the things that I do well. And so I just am, and it's very tempting to bring in something else, but then I can't do what I do well. And so I've learned that I used to have vases and all decor pieces and signs. I can't do my job well with the good quality control and treat my clients the way that I want to treat them if I'm doing 120 things. I need to really focus on the 3 or 4 things that I do really well and have a good network to refer to for those other pieces.
So talk about the showroom here. Mm-hmm. It's quite a big space.
Yeah, it's like 1,200 feet. I mean, it's not huge compared to other rental companies, but it's good for us.
Yeah. So, I mean, what was that process like in terms of, acquiring this and setting up, and then, talk about, like you said, it is like a game changer.
It is. So it all started actually when I had my son. I did not plan on having him in the middle of summer, but I did. And so he was born in August, and within 24 hours, I was back to ironing. I was in active labor with a client on the phone. Like, my life had gotten out of control, and so after I had him, my husband was home for 3 months with us. Thankfully, he was able to take the time off work and be with us. I did a lot of reflection into like, what do I want this business to look like? Because I'd had a 2-year-old at the time and then a newborn in the middle of summer, and I was still working 60 or 80 hours a week. And I determined in the next 6 months I wanted to hire somebody. So I'm a Christian, and God just put somebody, I really feel like, in my lap. I wasn't advertising, but my assistant, my lead designer, Whitley, she just reached out and it's like, hey, I'd love to have coffee and just learn a little bit more about what you do and share what I'm doing, and maybe we might be a good fit to support each other. And I had my 6-month-old son with me, and I told her, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to hire you, but I'm going to figure it out. And then you're just going to come to my house, because that's where I do my ironing in my house. And we had a larger shop, and it was like my husband's hunting and fishing shop that was taken over by wedding stuff. So it was tons of wedding stuff everywhere. And I was like, I don't know how we're going to make this work, but you just come. And within a couple of weeks, this space that we're currently in, it just kind of crossed my path, and it had been sitting vacant for over a year. And making the jump from a home-based business to a retail space is a big jump. And I, had to sit and think about our numbers, and I decided we're just going to go for it, and we'll try it for a year. And if it doesn't work, we'll just go back. Like, it's not a big deal. And I determined, if I just sold a little bit more, it would cover the cost. So we got the space, and my assistant was hired the same month that we got the space. And so I called her. I was like, hey, I still don't know how I'm going to hire you. I don't know the legalities of L&I and all of that, but I got a space for us. And so we've been here for 2 years, and it was the perfect space, because you walk in and the showroom is like a double doors, and you could just see the beautiful linens. It's nice and tall. We've done custom drapery installations in our ceiling. We can showcase our barn door drapery over our entrance. And then we have an office, and we have the back room. And the things that I didn't think about is when I go home, I'm home. And I don't have to check my email, and I don't have to do my contracts while the kids are napping. And when I'm at work, I work. And so that separation has been really good for us. And then also my younger son, he does sleep here in the afternoons, and I have the flexibility to work through his nap. But when he wakes up, we're done. We're done for the day, and we go and do our next thing. And so be able to have that balance. And then not having to meet at Starbucks. As much as I love Starbucks and I love supporting them with all the coffee I buy, it's nice to have a space for clients to come, and we can really dive deep, and I don't feel like I'm holding a table all day and so I've really enjoyed having the space. It's been really good. And the thing I like the most about it is we're not in a traditional downtown business center, or we're out in the flats. I mean, you drove out here, you might have thought, where am I going? Because you're passing dairy farms and the tulip fields and grasses. And
it's a beautiful drive.
It is a good drive. And so we're really in the middle, not the middle of nowhere, but about 10 minutes off the freeway. And I love it, because that's where I grew up out here. And this is part of who I am. And so to have a space out here I love it. It's perfect for me.
Well, and it's basically like a bigger suitcase, right? Where you have everyone, but do you think that having the ability to have the client see everything set up, touch everything, obviously, right, leads to better sales? Yeah.
Well, part of the training I had as a teacher was we talked about learning and how people access things. It's either auditory, visual, or tactile. Well, most of us are visual and tactile. If you just hear something, you think reading. If you listen to a book on tape, you may not understand as many of the concepts if it's a nonfiction business book or something. Whereas if you're reading it and you're touching it and you see it while you're reading it, then you end up retaining more. And so I took some of that knowledge that I have about how we're different learners, and we try to make it visual and tactile and auditory all at the same time. So no matter how you learn best or access the information best, it's here for you. And most of my clients, they just like to see it, and they'll bring a whole box of their stuff. So if they have their own vases already, or they have their own menu cards already printed out, or whatever pieces, they'll have their florist make a mock centerpiece and bring it in, and we mock it up here. And then once you're one of our clients, the other thing that we offer is, because people are so tactile, they need to see it in person. 30 days out, we'll go to your venue. We'll bring the box of your linens to the venue. We set up your mock table there at the venue. Because it's one thing to see it here in our office on the same size table with the same chair, but to see it inside the building with the lighting that building has is completely different. And so we do offer that as an option. We go in and we'll do a mock setup there for them. And that has been really helpful for people to walk away and be like, okay, that's exactly what it's going to look like.
I think that's fascinating. I mean, I love the idea of what people have done prior to what they're doing now and bringing that in. I know certain things that I do because I worked in news and kind of that environment. But I think you talked about what you had learned as a teacher. I mean, I just think that's fascinating that you're able to kind of take those lessons, and it's you're kind of building every step of your life, right? And what you learn now might help you continue this, or if you're going to do something else. I mean, Talking about that, just kind of that life progression. You said you had been a waitress and and a mom and lawn rolling. Talk about just that. How you kind of see your life bar graph or what do you call it? Line chart.
Yeah. So I grew up, my dad owned a turf farm actually right next door here. And so I grew up like literally mowing fields on a tractor, backing up trailers, setting out irrigation. And then I'm pretty good at communicating, I feel like. And so they stuck me in the office and I would clean the office. And then when the phones rang, if someone was busy, I'd answer it. And so I started my customer service at like 15 doing that. And as I went through the business and I worked my way into it, I ended up being like the lead sales manager. And when they sold the business, I was hired to train the new owner how to do it. So I know the ins and outs. And so I'm so thankful for those opportunities because my dad and my uncle who owned that business and the new owner, Rich, who took over the business, those three men, they were like open books for me. If I asked any question about profit or how do you set pricing or how do you find clients or how do you treat other people that are doing the same thing, they had very great integrity and honesty around it. And so they really put that seed in my head. I never thought I would own a business. That was never my plan. I always wanted to teach. I have dyslexia. So I wanted to my brain works differently. And so I wanted to help students who had the same type of disability and learning challenges. And I was so mad when I wanted to work part-time and it just didn't work out for the district I was in and with our family life. And at the time I was mad. It's like, I don't want to do my business full-time. I want to teach. That's where I want to make an impact. But I have found that, and I'm so thankful for my path now because of this, I can give back in other ways that I couldn't beforehand. So when I was teaching there, you have a set salary and that's it. And so we can only donate or give back to our community at a certain rate because that's all I can make. But now the sky's the limit. And so a percentage of all of our sales, we earmark and we give back to our community. So we give back to Lydia Place, which helps end homelessness in families and helps give them on their feet and gives the families counseling and new clothes for kids. And so they can be involved in football if they want to be in football. So I'm able to, the more money I earn here, the more I can give back to my community. And so I can still serve children. Maybe not in the same way that I did when I was teaching. And I'm still certified. Maybe I'll sub. Maybe I'll get back to it eventually. I don't know where my path is, but I do know that now where my children are and where my clients are and where I'm at in my life, this is where I need to be. And as long as this is where I need to be and people have problems that I can solve and people are getting married, which everyone's going to always get married, and as long as I'm enjoying it, I'm going to keep doing it because it's fun. And yes, everything does build. So I used to waitress, and so I can keep a lot in my head at once. And I can read emotions and people's body language pretty well because as a waitress, you're working for that tip. And so you need to make sure you're anticipating their needs. And so I can do the same thing while I'm working with clients. I can anticipate what other professionals they might need or what other extra tables have you thought about? Do you need tablecloths for your bar? Is your DJ bringing a tablecloth? What do you put in your cake on? One tip is we recommend putting cakes on cocktail tables. You spend a lot of money making this cake beautiful and having it designed and fit into your style. And when it's at a regular small table, it's not a showpiece. But when you set it on a cocktail table and it's a little bit higher above all the other tables in the room, then it becomes a showpiece and it gets photographed well. People can walk by and see it. It's not just lost in the corner. So we pay attention to those little details. And because my past is all about details and sales, I was able to kind of fold it over and make it fit to now.
That's a great point with the cakes because I know we always try to get video of the rooms and stuff before everyone comes in and sometimes you're like, wait, where's the and it'll be an empty room. So imagine if it's full filled with 200 people trying to make your cake or other things. That's a great point. So you miss teaching?
Yes, I miss my co-teachers and the people I worked with, and I miss the students a lot. I don't miss the paperwork, I'll be honest. It's a lot of paperwork. But I do miss that light bulb moment we talked about earlier, when I'm working with clients here and the design comes to life and they're just like, oh, it's perfect, that's what I wanted, and they sit down, they're just calm. I think I like that so much because when I taught, when the kids are like, oh, I understand subtraction now. I get it. I understand borrowing 10 and what it means. That light bulb moment for them is so rewarding. And so I've just transferred that from students to, couples planning their wedding. But that's what I look for, is I look to take the complicated and make it simplified for them, and so that they understand it.
Yeah, I mean, there is something to be said for a newly engaged couple as kind of like a child that you're trying to kind of lead them.
Kind of corral them around in their design.
No, but my wife's the same way. I mean, she moved schools this year, and she still always, talks about her old kids, and and she wasn't even at that school for that incredibly long, but she was there for years. But I do think that always kind of keeps a part of you, and it is something that I guess you miss. But if you feel like you can make an impact here.
Yeah, and I feel like my experience teaching and that because I've always had that heart to serve and to help people, had I not been in the schools, had I not gone down that path of like 3 years of night school while working full-time and part-time to get that degree that I'm not even using, but if I had not gone down that path, I would not have the skills I have now to serve the clients I have. And so everything in the past does play to where you're going. And I've learned that instead of trying to control every piece of it, I just kind of go with the flow. And paths will open and I'll go down the path and I will help people. And so if I had had more control over it and said, no, this is what I'm doing, I'd still be teaching and I probably wouldn't be super happy because my kids wouldn't have the flexibility and I wouldn't have the flexibility. But like, for example, this Thursday, I'm going to the zoo because I don't have to tell the boss or ask for the day off. My kid's going to the zoo, I'm going with him. If the Teacher Appreciation Day, I could go in and just help. I can volunteer in the class and I can work my schedule to fit my family needs now. And then in a couple years when my boys are in school full time, maybe I'm going to scale up and I'll really grow and do something different, open up new facilities. I don't know, but I'm open to options. But right now this is where I'm at and I take what I've learned and apply it however I can.
But yeah, like you said, where everything's the learning. And I mean, like I really, after I graduated from school, I had to go do news in Bakersfield, which was really not a good, fun time for me. But, learning, what you've done or what you don't want to do, really kind of like helps me be really grateful for what I have today, and so it's like, even with the missteps, right? I mean, there's certain things that you gain from that, either being, well, this really is what I want to do, or that's something that I don't want to do, and like you said, even if, with a degree and kind of going through that work lets you now manage a family and your house and a business and kind of all these other things.
Yep.
What is the hardest part for you now? Is it that home life balance? Is it running the showroom? Is it scaling up? I mean, what's the biggest challenge you have kind of today?
Because I think right now I'm struggling with the most, or the biggest challenge I face is I have a lot of flexibility in what I do. I can make my schedule however I want. I have certain days that I meet people, but a lot of days it's just like behind the scenes paperwork, getting linens ready, ordering, checking orders, like all the busy work. And that can be done anytime during the day. So my biggest challenge is that I am a procrastinator. And like I said, if it's 70 and I'd rather just be at home gardening or laying by the pool or take the kids to the beach. And so sometimes I can put things off. And like my client work's always done. It's always ready. Clients are always hearing from me. But it might be a month until I've reconciled my checking accounts on QuickBooks. Or maybe my social media is not being posted every day because I haven't been around. Or my blogs are a little behind. But honestly, at the end of the day, I'm going to look back and I'm glad that I had that flexibility. I took care of the clients that I have, but I don't always have to be looking for more. It's more important to take care of what I have and then to enjoy my time with my children. So I don't like working a ton of hours anymore. And when I'm on and I'm working. But when I'm off, I'm off. So if I don't know if you emailed me yesterday and maybe got the response, I'm on vacation. I'm not responding until Tuesday. And anybody that emailed me from Friday on, that's what they got. And if it's an emergency, then you have my number. Like people that are my clients this weekend, they have my phone number. And so they could call me and I could solve a problem if I needed to. But that's been a challenge, is just knowing where that line is and not procrastinating. And so that I feel like I can still have that balance. But ultimately my family comes first and my clients come first. And so anything other, like the marketing stuff, that can wait. The paperwork can always wait. But if my clients are taken care of and my family's taken care of, then I'm good to go. And if it's over 70, I'm not working.
Well, but also, when I had emailed you about, we had gone back and forth about the podcast, I mean, I think it was like 8 a.m. and then it was 9, 10 a.m., back and forth. And then it was like, oh, let's hop on an internet call at noon.
Yep.
I mean, so it was like, you were very immediate wanting to get, face to face in front, figure out what's going on, and getting connected that way, which I really appreciate because I've told other vendors now kind of going through this process, I learn how different people work and there's a lot of different ways to kind of bake the same cake, but you certainly see, the people that are kind of like putting the clients and things first, and other people that, might have more of a delayed response. So, I mean, that is really appreciative, at least for me, and trying to, and I think that obviously that kind of correlates to how it's going to be for your clients as well. My last question, biggest goal now, where is your next step in terms of just adding more clients or, acquiring more inventory, or what's your next?
No, I don't want more inventory. I think we have a couple big goals. My pie in the sky goal out there is to bring my husband home and have him have more flexibility in his job. And so he has a wonderful job and he has allowed me to really do whatever I want. He would say, if you want to be home and just be home and homeschool the kids, go for it. He would be so supportive if I wanted to shut the business down. And since he's allowed me to have that flexibility while my kids are young, I want to provide flexibility for him. And so eventually I'd love to see this grow to a point where maybe he doesn't quit his job, but he can walk in and say, I'm done, if he wanted, to have choices. And so to have that financial freedom, and then to also, that would in turn mean that I'm serving how many more clients? How many more people am I helping them create these wonderful weddings? And how much stress are we easing for them? And so it's a win-win. And then again, the more money I make, the more money that we can donate to these nonprofits. And that's so part of my heart. And so I would love to be able to donate half our income to these nonprofits in the area, still live a comfortable life, and serve clients. And help, like my assistant here, my lead designer, Whitley, she came to me and she says, I want to be a wedding planner. Great, I'm going to mentor you. She's a wedding planner. She has her own business. This is her second year now. And I don't want to say I did it for her because she is super phenomenal and she's so strong and super smart and she knew where she was going, but I do believe I added some steps in her path to make it easier for her. And I've modeled things for her. And I would love to do that for other people that want to get into the wedding industry or want to get into teaching, whatever my background is. If I can support someone towards their dream, then that's what I want to do. So that's where I see myself going, is continuing giving, hopefully making more money and serving more people and giving back to my community would be a win-win. And going on field trips.
More zoo trips.
Yes, zoo trips.
Well, I want to thank you so much for letting me come up here today to see your great showroom, to visit Skagit County again. If people want to learn more about you and your company and what you guys do and the services you provide, what would you have them do?
I would say if you want to learn more about the services we provide, you can come to our website at SkagitValleyWeddingRentals.com. It's a long one, I know. I probably should have abbreviated that. But most of the information, our pricing's online, how we work with clients. We have 2 levels of service. The traditional rent and return, and then also the deluxe where we come in and set up for you. You can always email us on our contact us page. If you just want to get inspiration, we have our Pinterest to Skagit Valley Wedding Rentals, Instagram, Facebook, they're all the same, Skagit Valley Wedding Rentals. You won't find us on Twitter or any of that, but Instagram and Facebook and Pinterest are our main social media places. And we try to post every day some picture of inspiration or we do lots of advice. Because we really just want to help. And so whether you work with us or not, we just want to make sure that we're somehow in the path of your planning, helping you get one step further. So that's our goal.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
This has been another episode of Get to Know Your Wedding Pro. Check back next week for another wedding vendor interview. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye.